won't take a lot of his time. I'm just going to introduce Daryl and turn things over to him. He was here 2 years ago, and it's good to have him back.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Appreciate the opportunity to be back with you. I can't believe it's been 2 years. Time gets away. I'm kind of curious though, because it has been a little while. Has anybody seen me for the very first time? You weren't here. A lot of you. Okay, all right. Anybody seen me for the last time? Go ahead and raise your hand. Just want to check, So. Well, no, I am Daryl Mosley. I grew up in the little town of Waverly, Tennessee, about an hour west of Nashville, and grew up singing in church and dreaming of a music career. I didn't know if that's what the Lord had in store, but I knew that's what I wanted. But I've been blessed for a lot of years now to be able to travel and tour and sing and record and, play places like the Grand Ole Opry and the Bluebird and television and that sort of thing. But more than anything else, I've always been a songwriter. And so I do about 150 concerts a year, just me and a guitar, and sharing some of the songs I've written over the years and the stories behind them. And so that's what I'll do this morning. Now, I'm a lover of story songs, so if you're going to get those story songs this morning. But more than anything else, just want to give God the glory for everything we're doing this morning. Now, this old pickup truck sure ain't much to look at. The rust and the miles are showing through. But every day it gets me where I'm going. Runs just like if it were brand new. This house of mine ain't much more than a cottage. Always things in need of repair. But inside are the ones I love so dearly, who make me feel like I'm a millionaire. And I'm thankful I've been so richly blessed with more than I deserve, when so many have much less. Thankful for the things we sometimes miss, like health and time and friendship, love and happiness. And when I count my blessings, I lose track. Oh, there's no way I could ever pay it back. But I'm thankful. Are you thankful this morning? Amen. I try so hard not to take for granted the very things that I treasure most, and lose sight of the blessings I've been given and all the gifts that I've been bestowed. Because there are so many with so little, and they look at me and think I've got it made. Oh, I'm covered up with all that really matters. So I bow my head and quietly I pray. I am thankful I've been so richly blessed with more than I deserve, when so many have much less. Thankful for the things we sometimes miss, like health and time and friendship, love and happiness. And when I count my blessings, I lose track. Oh, there's no way I could ever pay it back. But I'm thankful. I am thankful. Yeah. Well, I mentioned I started out singing in church. That's, where a lot of folks begin. I didn't realize I was starting to lay the foundation of a music career. I just knew I loved to sing. And I don't remember not singing. My grandmother used to tell me that when I was little bitty, she could take me to town and stand me up on the hood of a car and I would sing for people. I don't remember doing that, but I'll take her word for it. But I do remember the very day I decided I was going to learn to play guitar. It's funny how some things are just forever frozen in your mind. I was 13 years old, and decided I was going to learn to play guitar because of this Elvis movie. Now, I don't remember which movie, but I remember this one scene in the movie where the girl in the movie was mad at him. He had messed up somehow, and she was mad, and she wasn't going to talk to him anymore. She didn't want to hear anything he had to say. Elvis picked up a guitar, sang one song, and fixed everything. Well, I was only 13, but I was old enough to know that right there would be handy to know how to do. So I started learning to play guitar. Of course, this is several years after that when I found out that only works for Elvis. That did not work in life at all. But it got me started playing. Well, fast forward 2 or 3 more years, and I have for many years about 5 miles from where Miss Loretta Lynn lived. Miss Loretta was always wonderful to me. When I had a chance to visit with her, she was, of course, was very busy, but when she was in town, I was a teenager dreaming of, a career, and she would always take time with me and talk about the music business and that sort of thing. And she was the very first one to point me to songwriting and talk to me about how important it was that I learned to write songs. And it's been a lifelong process to learn how to kind of keep your radar up, listening for things that ought to be a song. I had a wonderful pastor a few years ago who said something in a sermon one Sunday morning, and as soon as I heard it, I thought, now that right there ought to be a song. And finally got around to writing it and recording it. This was a #1 song in gospel music last year. It's just a simple little Bible truth I'll share this morning. I talk with Jesus every morning, 'cause I know He's hearing what I say. I tell Him all about my troubles, and no matter what's ahead, I'm not afraid, 'cause He's with me when I'm walking through the valley. He's with me when the future's growing dim. He's with me when I'm crossing over Jordan. He's with me till I'm with Him. Now this road of life is sometimes hard to travel, never knowing what waits around the bend. But Jesus is my lifelong companion, by my side from beginning to the end. And He's with me when I'm walking through the valley. He's with me when the future's growing dim. He's with me when I'm crossing over Jordan. He's with me till I'm with Him. Oh, He's with me till I'm with Him. When I first started getting kind of serious about songwriting, I was on the road for the first time, traveling professionally in a bluegrass band. And I grew up, of course, growing up in Tennessee, you grow up around bluegrass, but I'd never really listened to it that much. So I started really listening, trying to figure out how those songs were structured and how I could write a bluegrass song. Very first song I wrote that I thought the band ought to record was a song called "The Scenery Never Changes When You Plow Behind the Mule." Worst song ever written, and I wrote it. But fortunately, there's a legendary songwriter in Nashville named Larry Sheld, and Larry kind of took me under his wing when I was in my late teens, early 20s, and kind of helped me develop the craft. And one of the things he said, Daryl, just write about what you know, write about the things that matter to you, and which has been the best advice, because that's what I've done my whole career, as I write about the little town I grew up in, and the little church I grew up in, and those people, and their stories, and their victories and challenges, and how God has worked his way into those experiences. You know, these are just genuine salt of the earth people that just kind of fly under the radar, but live these really powerful lives. And so I want to sing this one this morning. This song was kind of inspired by my dad and some men that I went to church with, but I have no doubt there's the men in this room that this song will apply to. And for the ladies, I know that there'll be some men that'll come to mind when you hear this song. You pass him without notice in his muddy boots and jeans, blue collar and dirty fingernails. But he's the one you call on when it's got to be done right, and he shows up just as steady as the mail. He says the most important tools are elbow grease and sweat, takes pride in the work he's called to do, and he believes in earning every dollar that you get, and he don't quit until the job is through. Oh, he's the last of his kind, a product of another time, when a man's word and a handshake said it all. He is honest, he is strong, what we built this country on, and we'll be less of a people when the last of him is gone. He's a reader of the Bible, he's a regular at church, and the reason for a solid family. If you ask for his opinion, you will get your money's worth, 'cause he's never been afraid to disagree. Oh, he's a leader by example, he's a patriot at heart, a singer every time the anthem plays. His old school ways of living sure are getting hard to find, and we lose a few more of them every day. Oh, he's the last of his kind, a product of another time, when a man's word and a handshake said it all. He is honest, he is strong, what we built this country on, and we'll be less of a people when the last of him is gone. He is honest, he is strong, what we built this country on, and we'll be less of a people when the last of him is gone. Thank you. My little town is about an hour west of Nashville, and it hadn't really changed that much over the years. We've lost a few things. And there's a little grocery store's not there anymore, and I think about it every time I drive by where it used to be. You know, back in the days before the big box stores, little grocery stores were like this everywhere, you know, and I hate that the young people of today's world have missed out on those experiences, because they were all basically the same. I mean, ours, Hicks's Grocery, Mr. Orville Hicks owned it. It was a little block building. It had one gas pump in the front. It had a screen door. And you could walk in that screen door and turn to the left, and he had a drink box with the Coca-Colas and the great knee-highs and stuff in the little glass bottles, and you'd have to slide it out of that thing and pop the top off of it, you know. Amen. He sold feed, that's right. Mr. Hicks had a spiral notebook under his cash register to keep up with the folks buying groceries on credit. That's high-tech bookkeeping right there, buddy. But as a kid, what I remember the most about Mr. Hicks's store is if you'd walk in that screen door and turn this way, Mr. Hicks had the best candy counter of any store in town. I mean, if you could remember it candy-wise from that day, it was there. You know, you could start right at the top with the Lifesavers and the Juicy Fruit and go right down through every candy bar, baseball cards, them little wax bottles with the juice inside. You remember them?
Yeah.
You know, Jawbreakers and Tootsie Pops and, you know, candy cigarettes. Do you remember them candy cigarettes?
Yeah.
I was 2-pack a day on those things when I was a kid. I loved those things. Bubblegum cigars. But one day I was just a little fella, but I was with my dad and we were on the way home, and Dad noticed that I had a piece of candy that I did not have the money to pay for, of course. And he took issue with that. He turned his truck around and drove me back to Mr. Hicks's store and made this little fella go in there by myself and square things away. Man, I didn't want to do it. But I did it. And to this day, I remember every detail. It made an impression on me I never forgot. A couple things made an impression on me that day, come to think of it. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about. But I was doing some songwriting a few years ago, and a version of that story worked its way into a song. If you're a Southern Gospel fan, you may know this one. This was a #1 in Southern Gospel a few years ago, but that's my little confession behind it. It goes like this. Two little boys were staring at the candy on display. One whispered to the other, with the clerk looking away, "Just put it in your pocket, no one will ever know. We'll eat it all before we get back home." That little boy just stared down at the candy on the shelf. You could almost hear the conversation he had with himself. Then he gave the clerk $1, took the candy and his change, gave half to his buddy and explained, "No matter who's watching, no matter who sees, Jesus in my heart knows how wrong that would be. And when I'm home and Mama asks me, have you been good? Though she would never know, I would." Well, little boys, they grow up, temptations grow up too, and we're living in a world that says do what you want to do. What they don't know won't hurt them is the devil's battle cry. But a godly man knows that is just a lie. No matter who's watching, no matter who sees, now Jesus in my heart knows how wrong that would be. And when the Holy Spirit asks me, have you been good? Though the world may never know, oh, but I would. The man that I am when no one is watching is the man I really am. No matter who's watching, no matter who sees, and Jesus in my heart knows how wrong that would be. And when the Holy Spirit asks me, have you been good? Though the world may never know, no, the world may not ever know, but I would. Oh, me and Jesus would. Yeah. I was doing some songwriting last year, and I was thinking about the term Christian walk. Most of us, if you've been in church circles any length of time, you've heard that term. So talking something about something that's a part of someone's Christian walk or a part of your Christian walk. It never says your Christian ride. And I thought, well, now that makes sense, because when scriptures were written, walking was the primary means of transportation. But I still believe that's the right word, because a walk implies commitment. It implies dedication. If you're on a walk, you are very aware of just how steep those hills are. And so you'll appreciate the flats and the downhills so much more. If this was a Christian ride, we would miss most of it looking at our phone. But it got me to thinking about a gentleman that I remember as a kid in our community, a man named Mr. John L. Mays. Folks called him John L. Us kids called him Mr. John. Mr. John was a black man who was severely autistic. But Mr. John would get up every morning and walk. And he would first walk up to the hospital, and he would visit with the folks in the hospital. And then he'd walk down to the nursing home and visit with the folks in the nursing home. And he would end up at the funeral home, visiting with the families of the bereaved. And Mr. John went to the funerals of just about everybody that passed away in our community for decades. I mean, he was doing this before I was born. And this went on for many, many years. In 2017, when he finally passed away, of course, huge turnout. Everybody in town loved him. And on the way to the cemetery, I always loved this. They drove his route. One more time. I love that. But to this day, if you go to the graveyard and you find Mr. John's headstone, above the dates and his name is a carved picture of him. And then it says, the walking man. Because people who would see him, who didn't know him by name, recognized him because of his walk. And I thought, if I'm going to call myself a Christian, if I'm going to proclaim to the world that I'm on this Christian walk, it should be my sincerest desire that when people see me who don't know me, they can still recognize me as a walking man. And so because of Mr. John and a couple other walking men that changed the world, one in particular, I wrote this song. You could find him every morning on the sidewalks of our town. Rain or shine, it didn't matter. Mr. John would make his rounds. He'd be visiting the shut-ins and the county nursing home. He attended every funeral, paid respects to those gone on. One foot and then the other, step by step he stayed the course, thinking only about others, listening to the Master's voice, moving with a purpose, faithful to the plan, and focused on the mighty task at hand. He was a walking man. From Atlanta down to Selma and the streets of Montgomery, he would walk demanding that all men be treated equally. They gathered like a storm cloud, rained down on D.C., brought change to a nation with a walking preacher's dream. One foot and then the other, step by step he stayed the course, thinking only about others, listening to the Master's voice, moving with a purpose, faithful to the plan, and focused on the mighty task at hand. He was a walking man. Well, there are some who take a side, some who take a stand, but few will take the steps required to help their fellow man. We're a world in need of more like Mr. John and Dr. King, and the one who took that long walk up a hill called Calvary. First one foot and then the other, step by step he stayed the course, thinking only about others, listening to his Father's voice, moving with a purpose, faithful to the plan, and focused on the mighty task at hand. He was a walking man. Jesus was a walking man. Thank you so much. Last summer, I got invited to go down to Texas and do a reunion concert with the very first band I ever toured with. And we'd not seen each other in years, had not been on stage together in over 25 years. And they invited us down. So we had the best weekend, just catching up and telling stories, and enjoyed doing the concert. But I was looking at the pictures when we got done. I thought, man, them guys got old. It's funny how it works that way, isn't it? It just sneaks right up on us, but it's so obvious with everybody else. And I have those, getting to that place in life, I have those moments too. You'll be like in line at the bank, and there's some old guy up there slowing up the works, and you're like, man, I wish this old guy'd hurry up. And then he leaves, and you realize you graduated high school with that guy. So he's not so old after all. But one of my favorite stories, I know God's got a sense of humor. I was playing the Grand Ole Opry one night, and I'm standing in the wings waiting to go on, and on stage is this young group, and I can't think of their name, but there were two girls and a guy, and they're maybe 30 years old, singing some big hit record that they had, and they sound great. And I'm just standing here watching because I'm on next. And so when they finish, they're bringing them off stage, and Pete Fisher, who was the manager of the Opry at the time, is escorting one of these young ladies off stage, and she stops. And she leans down to Pete, and she points right in my direction, and she says, I would like to meet him. So I started looking around trying to figure out who was she pointing at. I thought Vince Gill or somebody had walked up beside me. But no, I'm standing there by myself. So he brings her over, and I introduce myself. She says, oh, I know exactly who you are. I said, really? She's like, oh yeah, when I was like 3 years old, my grandmother used to take me to your concerts. That was not the way I thought that conversation was going to go. I said, she probably got to the dressing room and called her mom. Was like, you remember that old guy Grandma used to like? I met him tonight. But I'm grateful that I grew up when I did. I grew up in a world where you come home from school, you did your chores. We ate supper together at the table as a family. After supper, you did your homework. And if you had some time after that, that time belonged to you. And so when I had time, I would usually grab a guitar. But if I had been brought up in a world that offered cell phones and video games and other distractions, maybe I would have reached for something else. And it could have changed the direction of my whole life. So I appreciate that I was brought up when I was. I was just not prepared for how fast those years were going to get away. I am the youngest member now, but I am old enough that I get invited to go down to the cafe in the mornings and sit at the liar's table. That's what they call it. Now, these are mostly retired men in our community that and I just love them. They're about a generation older than me, and they have the best stories and just some of the best guys. But and usually they're funny. Some of them are just hilarious. But sometimes I'll notice in some of their conversations just a little thread of pain and I guess feeling out of place. And I'm sure that was probably going on in my mind when this song happened. This is one of those songs that came real quick. I wrote this in about 30 minutes one Saturday morning, and it just kind of lets you walk in somebody else's shoes, and I want to share it with you this morning. Some days my back hurts for no good reason. My hands ache when the rain is coming in. It seems I'm always looking for my glasses, or dozing in my easy chair again. I see this old man every time I'm shaving. A face that I barely recognize. It's like I'm trapped in someone else's body, and looking at the world through fading eyes. But I'm still here, I'm still me. Inside I'm still the boy I used to be. I still run and jump and climb through the meadows in my mind. How quickly did those days all disappear. They're all gone, but I'm still here. Don't think that I don't see you, look right through me. Or roll your eyes when I take too long. It's hurtful to be treated like a burden in a world that feels I don't belong. I traded restless youth for aging wisdom, but I think I got the wrong end of the deal. Those carefree days, I took them all for granted, and now staring at the end is just surreal. 'Cause I'm still here, I'm still me. Inside I'm still the boy I used to be. I still run and jump and climb through the meadows in my mind. How quickly did those days all disappear. They're all gone, but I'm still here. So many of my old friends have finished up their race. There's nothing left but memories and stones. But me, I just keep moving at a little slower pace. 'Cause until the good Lord calls this old boy home, I'm still here, oh, I'm still me. Inside I'm still the boy I used to be. I still love and hurt and cry. We're no different, you and I. How quickly did those days turn into years. They're all gone, but I'm still here. They're all gone, I'm still here. Yeah, thank you so much. You know, I get asked sometimes if I ever get tired of singing this song, and I don't. And I'll tell you why. I'm grateful this morning. Grateful that God did not give me all the things that I wanted when I thought I wanted. I'm grateful this morning that not one time did He ever take my advice. Because boy, howdy, I'd have messed things up. Several years ago, I was a staff songwriter for Ronnie Millsap's publishing company for a number of years, and they used to take us songwriters and put us in a big circle every Monday morning and have us kind of go round robin and sing whatever song we've been working on. And they did this to kind of create some friendly rivalry and to encourage us to write more songs and better songs. And I remember those days, you know, working and writing and and hoping and even praying that God would allow me to write some big hit country song. And he never did. I had a couple of songs that were on hold that looked like, well, this is going to be the one. And for one reason or another, they didn't get recorded. And I remember being frustrated and not really understanding why. What I didn't realize at the time is the Lord was just saying, hold on. I have a better plan. It reminds me a little bit of that story of Jesus at the wedding at Cana. You know the story, the wine ran out. So they sent his mama to ask him to do something about it. That's how you know Jesus was a country boy. They sent his mama. And so Jesus did what Jesus does. And of course, you know the story. They brought the wine to the host and he tasted and he said, you know, at most of these things, they serve the good stuff first. But as the celebration kind of wanes, they'll bring out that lesser quality stuff. But not you. No, you've saved the good stuff for last. I've come to realize that oftentimes that's how he is with us. You know, when things don't work out the way you think they should, when you're frustrated, disappointed, not even sure your prayers are getting through the ceiling. What he's saying is, hold on. The good stuff is coming. Because if he had given me what I wanted back in those days, I'd have had a song on the radio for a little while and I'd have made a little money and then it would have been gone and probably forever forgotten. But a few years after that, he gave me a song that has been around the world. I mean, this song won every award it could win. It made the list as one of the top gospel songs of all time. It's been streamed millions of times. I've heard it in different musical styles, different languages. Every now and then I get on the internet just to look and see where it ended up. There's a black gospel version of this song. There's a mountain bluegrass version of this song. I have heard this song sung by a praise and worship choir from Jamaica. I've heard it sung by a youth choir from South Africa. And rarely does a week go by that somebody won't come up to me on the road and tell me some story of how the song found its way into their life. I got an email a couple of months ago from a guy who was going in for major surgery. And he had made arrangements with his surgeon and with the hospital to have this song played on a loop while he was in surgery. God forgive me, but the first thing I thought of was, I hope that's not one of them 10-hour surgeries. Because you're going to be asleep. But your surgeon is going to know every word of this thing by the time that's over with. But it meant that much to him. That's what he was hanging his hope on. And it just blessed my heart. Because of this song, I had an afternoon in a recording studio with Mr. Bill Gaither. Just me and him. Sitting in folded chairs. And I mean, that's songwriter royalty right there. I mean, that's the guy that wrote Because He Lives. And he touched me. So many others. But he said something that day I'll never forget. He kind of laughed and he slapped me on the knee and he said, you know, Daryl, one of these days that song will outlive you. And at the time I'd never thought about that. He said, yeah, you know, if the Lord tarries, one of these days we won't be here to sing these songs. But the songs stay behind. And other folks sing it. And God's still being glorified by it. And that was just one of those moments that I just, sometimes with your relationship with the Lord, it just feels like He just kind of pulls you a little close. And that was one of those moments for me. That awareness that, the God of creation, the God of Abraham, the God in my Bible knew me and loved me and sent a Savior to die for me. And then could still look beyond my faults and my weaknesses and allowed me to be a part of something that would last longer than I would. I mean, how do you thank a God like that? Friend, I want to tell you this morning that the God of creation, the God of Abraham, the God in your Bible, knows you. Scripture says before you were formed in the womb, He knew you. He decided how tall you'd be and the color of your eyes. You ever known anybody, you ask them what color eyes they have and they can't tell you? They give you this 30-minute explanation of, well, they're kind of green and they're kind of gray and it depends on the light, and I just think maybe that's a heavenly color. Maybe we don't have that color here. And God used it for your eyes. And then He gave you this personality that is unique to you. There is no other one like you. There's no cookie cutter in His toolbox. You are a God original. And then He sent a Savior to die for you. And can still look beyond your faults and your weaknesses and allow and wants to bring good things to you. He just wants you to trust Him. I mean, who would not want to serve a God like that? So it's always a joy for me to get a chance to sing this song. If you follow gospel music, it's probably crossed your path somewhere along the way. But I was driving home from North Carolina one night, and the night this song was born. I was working in town one afternoon, attending some business affairs. I heard a commotion a couple streets over. I wondered what's happening there. A young man was running from in that direction. He stopped just to catch his breath. Oh, I asked him to please tell me what was the hurry. Oh, he smiled up at me and he said, I was trying to catch the crippled man. Did he run past this way? He was rushing home to tell everyone what Jesus did today. And the mute man was telling myself and the deaf girl he's leaving to answer God's call. Oh, it's hard to believe, but if you don't trust me, ask the blind man, he saw it all. Ask the blind man, he saw it all. Now here's the good part right here. My friend, if the troubles and burdens you carry are heavy and dragging you down, you have tried everything you can possibly think of, and there's no relief to be found. My friend, that very same Jesus that altered the future of a blind man, the deaf and the lame, oh, He is still reaching out in your hour of trouble. One touch and you're never the same, and you'll be trying to catch the crippled man. Did he run past this way? He was rushing home to tell everyone what Jesus did today. And the mute man was telling myself and the deaf girl he's leaving to answer God's call. Oh, it's hard to believe, but if you don't trust me, ask the blind man, he saw it all. Ask the blind man, he saw it all. Oh, oh, he saw it all. Thank you so much. I'll do one more. Folks, I thank you for allowing me to be a part of your service this morning. It's been always a joy to be out this way. I do covet your prayers. I'm on the road, like I said, a lot. I do about 150 concerts And I don't fly. I mean, it's just too much trouble with equipment and everything. So I average driving about 5,000 miles a month. And I'm a good driver, but some of those folks out there are not. You know, so I'd appreciate you praying for me. I appreciate you praying for them, you know, but no, I have a website. It's just my name, DarylMosley.com, and my schedule is on there and up to date if you want to kind of keep an eye on where I'm at. And if you do the social medias, Facebook and Instagram, I have those as well. And lots of times posting pictures of some of the places I've seen in my travels, so you're welcome to follow those as well. And when we get done, there is a table in the back with, you know, what you'd expect, CDs and T-shirts and things. I do have something new. Over the past year, I spent almost a year writing a devotional book, 365 daily devotionals, and each one of the devotionals is in some way tied to one of the songs I've written over the years. So if you enjoy the stories and that sort of thing, that'll be available when we get done. But you know, I want to share one more song with you. You know, you don't have to look very far these days to find somebody to tell you what a mess we're in. And it's not hard to find people to tell you what terrible people we are. You know, but I just disagree with that. You know, that's not been my experience. I meet a lot of people in my travels. I've been doing this 30 years, and I still believe that the majority of the people in our country are just good, honest, hard-working people that love their families and love their communities, and I think it's the bad folks that get all the press and the loud people that get all the press, and so I'm grateful that I'm living here, you know, and no place else I'd rather be. So I'm just going to focus on the good stuff. That's kind of my motto this year. So I'll share this song with you, and then I'll turn it back over. But thank you again for having me this morning. I don't like to watch the news. It just makes me crazy. Whatever they are talking about, there's something bad to say. The price of life is climbing, and the paychecks all are shrinking. And it just gets me thinking, wishing I could run away. Then I remember what my grandma said when I was younger. Whatever you are looking for is probably what you will see. So I can't help but smile as I look around and notice all these big and little blessings God is raining down on me. Like a job that's counting on me to show up every morning, a family that loves me to come home every night. I'm not stressing or obsessing about all that is wrong here. I'm just thankful for the blessings of everything that's right. Well, my old Chevy's secondhand, but runs just like a new one. The little boat she's pulling's gonna see some fish today. The sun is on my skin, and this big sky, it's a blue one. The world is spreading out just like an after-church buffet. Oh, I know life ain't perfect, and this world has got some problems, but there's a lot to celebrate, a lot to thank God for. So I'll just try to see the good in every situation. I know that every perfect gift is coming from the Lord. Like a job that's counting on me to show up every morning, a family that loves me to come home every night. I'm not stressing or obsessing about all that is wrong here. I'm just thankful for the blessings of everything that's right. I'm not stressing or obsessing about all that is wrong here. I'm just thankful for the blessings of everything that's right. God bless y'all. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.